there's all kinds of cool things you can do with this. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh,
there we
it's
go.
already getting hot. I put a fan underneath it.
Hi, Laurel. Welcome to the call. And would you like to tell us a little bit to start with about where in the world you are and just a little basic intro of what's up with you at the moment in your life?
Gosh, I'm in Richmond, Virginia, in the United States. Basic info. How do you put 64 years into like 30 seconds? Um, highly sensitive person. Always been intuitive. Always been into metaphysics. I'm a chef, but it's not just like a regular chef. I mean, most people that I know that are chefs are into what they do. They're really into. I teach the energy. Teach the food energetics and the connection with the human spirit and what happens when people get together.
So you're working on nourishment on not just the physical level.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. Mm-hmm. And so I did science of mind for 4 years. I've done everything. I've been to Wicca. I've been this, that, the other thing. I've been, spent the year in shamanic studies. I'm studying Ayurveda now. I mean, this is from lifetime, like my whole lifetime. And I guess, I came to human design by default.
Did you say you found human design by default?
Absolutely.
When was it? How long ago was it when you first found human design?
Probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I was at a retreat and, they did the charts and they had the book and I was like, okay, yeah, this is right. This is nice, but it's really friggin' confusing. And so about 2 years ago, I picked it up again. I have a friend that was studying to be an analyst, so she did my chart for me. And there were things that she said to me that I didn't quite understand about needing to hear my own voice, which is the soundboarding.
So you went from not knowing about human design to obviously knowing you're a projector. Did you dive down straight away into the level of, okay, I'm not just a projector within that, I'm a mental projector, or did that come later on?
The funny thing about human design when you start looking at your chart is there's things about yourself that you've known all along, but you didn't realize it because you didn't actually see something that said, oh, by the way, you're this. I've soundboarded my whole life. It's just recently all kinds of things that have come to me from learning bits and pieces have been, wow, I've always done that, or really I always thought that, or it's always been this way.
How can you share a little bit about, because for those that aren't mental projectors and for many who are mental projectors, the thing of soundboarding can be a little bit enigmatic. So could you share a little about how that looked before, because you said you've been doing it all your life. How did that look before you'd found human design, or it found you?
Well, before I found human design, or it found me, it was more like, some people were saying to me, why are you listening to other people? You shouldn't listen to other people. Why are you talking to other people about your stuff? And I'm like, I kind of need to. I didn't know why. Do you know what I mean? So, I mean, but I realized that I'm not looking to people. That looks like a good cup of tea. I ran out of my chai the first order of business after this.
Got my lemon.
There you go. I have a very close-knit group of people that I've known for most of my life, old friends, and that's who I talk to when shit's going on,
Right.
And or if there's a situation, or a lot of times I do not know how to make a decision about something.
So you've got a decision to make. You've got this network of trusted people, your people, and then it's natural for you to talk to them and just talk it out. Is that how it rolls?
Yeah, that's how it's been rolling forever. But now I understand it from a different perspective because I'm not looking for answers from them.
Right.
I think subconsciously we already know the answer. We just need to hear our own voice talking it through. Having somebody to talk it through with. A lot of people don't have that.
Feedback on what they hear, or do they say, when you said that, it really resonated, or do you get that feedback, or how do you roll?
I definitely get feedback because they know me.
Yeah.
I don't want to repeat some of the things I've done in my life before, so those are the people I trust, and if I see myself maybe going in that direction, in a couple of situations, especially relationships, I've learned, if my friend says something to me, I have to pay attention to it because I
Yeah.
know that it's part of a pattern that I've had, you know, that I need to pay attention to.
Cool.
If that
I'm
makes sense.
really stoked that we're doing this because we've had, I don't know if you've seen any of the other interviews, but we had Melissa's an energy projector, and then we had Simran's, she's a splenic classic projector, so no motors, but she has the spleen defined, a bit like James. And then we've also had Ron, who's a self-projected, so he has the G center. So we're sort of going up the body graph for definition.
Isn't that
Now,
funny?
yeah, I know, right? So you've got, now we might get, because I'm on my phone, if it's easy for you to share your chart when it comes to it, maybe you could help with that part. But just as a preview, you have the green ajna. So we're gonna sort of do this for basics because maybe people are brand new watching this who don't know what mental
Okay.
projector even means. So just to break that down a little bit, you've got the ajna defined, and you've got the throat defined, and you have one channel, which is the 1762, and that's defined consciously, and there's the 62 is also unconscious. So it's black, and then the bottom part is red and black. So that's connect. So what's that channel called for you, Lauren? Do you know that one?
I think that's the chat. I think it has something to do with organization.
Yeah. I've got the one next to it, which is the channel of structuring, the 4323. That's the freak to genius on the individual circuit. Yours
That's
is obviously on the collective circuit.
interesting though, because on the freak to genius, I think mine is not going all the way to the bottom or the top.
You've got a hanging gate on the 43.
Okay, so what does that mean? Because I have to tell you, um, the thing that I just got invited to was to do the thing that I've always wanted to, and to share, to share the work that I know deeply and feel deeply and have had so much experience with. And so I have felt unheard most of my life as far as, um, you know, I'm out there. I am totally out there, and not everybody, can you hear me?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so not everybody gets, most people don't get where I am because I'm like, ooh, I've already,
Should we talk a little bit, because this is something that a lot of projectors have in common, this experience of feeling unseen. Should we dig into that a little bit? Have you
yeah.
got any examples or stories to share about how that's been in your life? Like, because you said you were sort of like just used to it, and the pre being a projector, like feeling
Well,
invisible.
well, the whole business about waiting is really a wonderful thing because, I know everybody gets angry because we're waiting. I've been waiting 64 years for this. Okay, so I've waited a little while.
I think you're on the leaderboard for that one,
Uh,
Laurel.
you know, but it's not something to be like in the last job that I was in. I mean, I had people yelling at me because I put the eggs in the wrong container or I banged into a cake. Like, do you have any idea who? Excuse, can I curse? I'm from New York. They have no idea who the fuck you're talking to. Because I know who I am. I know what I've experienced. I know what I've studied. I know where I've been. I created an entire gluten-free menu. The whole menu in this place I created. And you're yelling at me because I put the eggs in the wrong container? Really? And like pulling me into these meetings, and it was like insanity. And it was like, not being seen for truly what my contribution is to.
So we got a few things there that aren't great, right? We've got, first of all, you're not being seen in your talent. You're not being recognized for the gifts and the gold you're bringing. Second, it sounds like it's a fairly generator kind of environment with people
Totally.
all enveloping each other, and that sort of, which isn't a great place for an unrecognized projector to be. And third, they're in their not self. If you were surrounded
All the
by
time.
right, if you're surrounded by generators who are satisfied and loving their work, it could be fun. But if you're, and I haven't worked in a kitchen, but I do get the sense that some kitchens, especially for you who's aware of the energy you're putting that's going in the food, like, how's that? Like when you're around all that energy in a kitchen, do you feel terrible?
Yeah, I wrote a book about it. I have a book out. I have a book out called The Blissed Out Chef. Um,
What's it called?
the Blissed Out Chef, and it was kind of like
Blissed
me
Out
being
Chef.
the Blissed Out Chef. It's about this. It's about when I realized the zone that I got into when I was by myself and I was starting in the morning and cooking and the music and everything. I've been working with people that do music medicine, for lack of a better word, sound healing, um, and so I started to really tap more into that and look at it much deeper. Like, I mean, I've been looking for somebody to write music to what is the sound of a tomato.
Oh wow.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I just got this thing on this farm, and I walk in there and all I can see is 10 acres of this beautiful farm and I can't stop smiling
This
because
is your new job, right? This is the new
it,
place, the new one you were invited to.
there's no bullshit. There's no
Yeah.
bullshit. It's
Yeah.
plants. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
In a kitchen environment, you're working with lots of different personalities. And I've, been through 15 years in this place, waves of good and bad and up and down, laughing, no laughing. Nobody laughed anymore. I was like, where the fuck? Nobody's laughing. Why aren't we laughing? We used to joke and have fun and, and the day goes faster. And it's so toxic. And, especially in a kitchen environment, like I would never want to work with Gordon Ramsay. I mean, who wants to eat food that somebody yelled at? I mean, so it was
And
very hard.
is this awareness coming into the, because obviously Gordon Ramsay's high profile, but for us in this work, it's obvious to us that if you are yelling and screaming, it's not going to be great for the food. But is
Well,
that like not yet in the mainstream awareness?
it is more in the way, it's becoming more in the mainstream awareness. Now, I went to school in England. I went to Thames Valley University. It's where I got my culinary degree.
Yeah.
And my teacher, I don't know where he is. Maybe you can look him up. His name is Gus Johnson. He was my hero. He was Nigerian. And I used to cry when I made a mistake. I was like the oldest person. I was 40. Everybody else was 20. And I was like, okay, can't do this. And he said, we're not here to yell. Never raised his voice. Didn't believe in it. And so he was the first person, and that was 20 some odd years ago, working with somebody like that. And so it's always been, the most wonderful thing is to walk into a kitchen and meet people from different cultures and, from all over the world. I mean, and get to actually work with them and see how they make their food. And, that's what I do for other people now. You know what I mean? I set up an environment for other people to have fun and get to meet each other and in a different way. So yeah, it's really important. It's becoming more mainstream now.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's interesting. I remember when I was a kid, like if you dropped a plate or something, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
Kind of like it was a big disaster. So of course then you're more nervous and you're more likely to drop the plate because you have that sort of cellular memory of like, ugh.
So what I found really interesting
Yeah.
in coming to human design about this business of not working,
Yeah. Tell me.
I've been busting my ass like a generator. There's
Right.
nobody.
So this is the not self, isn't it?
I was a production chef in this other place. There's 20-year-olds. I mean, honestly, I could outproduce anybody. I'll put out more things, because I'm just focused that way. And that's the other. There's a few things in my chart I don't understand. Maybe somebody can explain to me. And so this business of not working and being valued and recognized. And so my goal was to work 3 days a week or 4 days a week, no more than 4 hours at a time. This new thing is more like 3 hours, and it'll pay me the same as I make for 5 hours somewhere else. But I've only got 3 classes this month so far, so I don't know how I'm going to make it through the month. But I'm going to get really busy. And so, they said, keep them coming, keep them coming. So now all the things you're starting to see on Facebook, I don't sell anything. That's the other thing. I don't have to sell anything. I'll put something up because, hey, this is my new class, but I'm not the one that sells it. They don't buy from me. They buy from the people who are whatever. But the idea of not working so hard, this year I've spent an enormous amount of time alone. I listen to a lot of John Martin videos, and I know he's a bit of a kook, but he's brilliant. And, like Shut Up Projector, It's really important to spend a lot of time in your own aura. I spend an enormous time alone. It's wonderful and it's also lonely. Um, but it's been the most brilliant thing for me because I can see better now. I can
Nice,
see, you know.
nice. Yeah, just when you share that, like I got goosebumps. There's a little bit of sounding board feedback, but that almost like almost like if you're in your not self sacral, it's like the time you spend alone out of people's aura means that you're clearer in yourself. So then when you show up,
Yes.
your laser is really well focused and you can really do your thing effectively. And that, I just felt like just now there's a huge amount of energy moving through my body just celebrating that. So that's pretty cool.
It's a great thing. I mean, so like I had a group last night. It was such an easy class. It was so great. And
Do you feel that too? Can you feel it? Like
huh?
in the conversation here?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I had a group. So what I mean, well, I'll go into these groups and I'll lead the groups, and then I have to come home and I hide.
Yeah. Well, you are a 2-4, right?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting.
I didn't realize. I thought everybody. I thought I had to be an extrovert. For years, I tried to be an extrovert. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't have to do that anymore. And most of the time, a lot of times, I find myself saying, "Just leave me alone. Just leave me alone." If somebody's bugging me or somebody keeps texting, just leave me alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everything I do is in groups as far
Uh-huh.
as leading. And I know Cohen posted something about if a projector is not leading a group. I've never fit into groups. I don't fit into religious groups. I don't fit into like the Fabulous Women network of business entrepreneurs. I think but I'm not a networking person as far as going to meetings. I
I
decided I
love that
didn't.
expression about not being able to herd cats. That feels really apt for projectors.
Yeah, isn't that great? Like I don't want to be part of. I don't want to belong to anything, but I want to be
Uh-huh.
part of everything. If that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yep.
I want to
Yep.
pick and choose where I go. I don't like to be tied to, um, you know, a set of. I'm a rule breaker. I like breaking rules. Like if you're parking boats, so you move boats, right? If I was to park in a parking space, I like to park a little outside the lines. Not that I want to get into anybody's. I usually park in the lines, but when I was
Yeah.
married,
Funny you mentioned that.
ex-husband, he used to repark the car for me. I used to park it wrong just to piss him off.
Oh, that's too funny.
I see a couple of things on my chart that I'm really curious about because I haven't had the whole desire thing, and I know the PDLLLL or whatever it's on the top of the chart there. I'm not quite sure what that means.
How about we start? Because I'd love to just sort of start with an overview and break down the fact of being a mental projector of those 3 types. Because I know we've done it before, but I know that people will find that really useful.
Okay.
So your motors, interestingly enough, all of your motors only have unconscious gates attached to them. Did you notice that?
I don't even understand what that means.
Great. So let's start with that. Let me see if it's. I'm just going to see. Maybe you can see if you can share your chart from your screen if you're on your computer. There, it might be an easier way to do it.
Let's see.
Up.
So I go into my
If you just go on the Zoom window and go share, you should be able to share that. And I'm just going to check the comments while
see if I can find it. Okay.
Yeah, if not, I can figure out a way to do it from here.
This is crazy. Wow.
So Mike was just saying he's been listening to John Martin. So I love John Martin.
I love John Martin.
He's great.
He kind of got the whole thing started for me.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so
And
used
Peter
to going.
Gable also resonated with not fitting in. He said that so describes him
Who
as
did?
well. That's Peter Gable, who's also on the chat there. So we've got a few people on the call. We've also got Angela. We've also got Constantine. So there's about four people listening in, which is great.
Okay, so now how do I get to share? I've got my.
There should be a button there that says share near the bottom of your Zoom window.
I did, but I'm in my desktop.
But that's okay. Well, I can do it from here as well.
Okay.
We can pull
Oops,
that
now
up.
now I have to get back in you. Oh. Wait,
Zoom's not always the most intuitive thing, so
wait a
don't
minute.
worry.
How do we get back in here? I don't see you. I don't see you anymore.
I can see you. We're all good.
Well, I
So
don't know.
let's
I don't
pull
have
this
your.
up on here. And yeah, the thing about being a mental projector is that you have nothing defined below the throat. So let me just, oh, interesting, that should be muted. Sorry, that's a bit horrible.
Okay.
Just attempting to do this from here. How's it going? Are you making progress, or shall I do it on this end?
I think you better do it because
Let me do it on this end.
technically challenged.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So we've got people kind of joining in and stuff like that. So that's fine. So let me just see if I can do that again without it making all
So
that
I
horrible.
have some people's their microphone is muted. Is that on purpose? Or
Yeah,
maybe
it's
that's
great
okay.
when people unmute themselves.
Okay.
You have a lot less background noise.
Gotcha. Okay.
So let's just while I'm doing this, sometimes all this Mercury retrograde and stuff, it can be quite an intense energy. So I'm going to invite everyone just to take a few breaths. And I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I find technology responds better when I drop in. So
That was my phone. Shutting that off. I told everybody call me before 8 o'clock.
I'm just trying to. How's that? That's a bit better, isn't it?
I see you at your desk. Oops. Thank you.
There we go. Peter sorted it out for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we might even get Peter, because Peter can maybe zoom in a little bit there. Now, we've got the top 3 centers. And all of those top 3 centers, as a mental projector, you can either have 2 of them, either the top 2 or the bottom 2 of those, you know, the ajna and the throat, or you can have all 3. So there's 3 different basic types of mental projector. So, you know, like they say, not all reflectors are the same, that there's a lot of difference from one to the next. So, yeah, how are we going so far? Can you still hear me okay?
I can. It's great.
Great. Okay, good. Now, the motors in your body graph are the 4 centers that are the bottom and are at the right. So I don't know if we're able to zoom in at all. If Peter's able to do that, that'd be super cool.
Yeah, it was zoomed in and now it went small again.
Well, we'll let him, he can play with that while we're talking. So the motors, the main motor is the sacral, which is the one up from the bottom. So it's a square, not the very bottom one is the root. That's a motor.
Got it.
The sacral, obviously, if we have the sacral, it means we must be a generator. So no projectors ever have that. Now, the one over on the right is the emotional center. So if that's colored in, that's like half of the projectors have that colored in. Although for me, my gut feeling feels like we don't have half the people in the group don't seem to be emotional. So that's interesting. But then we also have the, Peter, if you double click on it, that should pull it up and make it a bit bigger. If you double click on the image, then that'll bring it up. So that's okay. We'll make do with what we've got here. The other way is to save it and then open it in a, you know, if you click the little drop down arrow, we're learning WhatsApp here. If you on the photo, there's a little drop down arrow at the top right within WhatsApp. Actually, the photo of the chart itself. So if you click on, there should be a little arrow at the top right pointing down, and you can then save it and do it that way. Yeah, the 4th motor is the will. So if you look at your top, if you look at those bottom right centers, all of those are undefined, obviously. The other 2 you've got undefined are the G center and the spleen. If you had one of those, then you'd be a classic projector. But if you have a motor, then you must be an energy projector. Now, not only do you not have any of the motors, but you also don't have any conscious definition on them. So there's 2 columns of numbers in the body graph chart. The right one is black, and that's for conscious. The red one is on the left, and that's the unconscious. So sometimes it's described as a black one's being like bridges, because you can kind of see that they're there. You kind of have awareness of consistent energy there. Whereas when you have the red one, it's more like a tunnel. It's like an unconscious connection. It's like a talent that you have that you maybe didn't even realize that you have it. Does that make some sense?
Yes. Can I ask you a question about that? Does that mean that if you're operating from mostly the unconscious, that well, you're operating from mostly the unconscious and not?
We talk about personality and design in human design. So it's not that unconsciousness is a bad thing. You know, like,
No,
you
I
know,
don't think it is. I mean,
spiritual practice, we're trying to become more conscious, but this is a different thing. So I might be able to do it like this. I'm just getting a bit creative here with the
thank you so much for doing this. This is so interesting.
Yeah, and you know, these chats, it's not really like a kind of a mastermind or something. It can be, if we just get Peter to stop sharing for a second, I'll pull mine up. How can I do that? So I'm going to share that. That'll do that. Okay. And yeah, it's like, you know, we're informal here. We're hanging out. There's not, you know, if anyone's watching this and they're feeling all this crazy time pressure or anything like that, then, you know, this may not be the right format for them. We're chilling. You know, we just want to hang out and have a look at the chart. So, you know, and I'm a 3-5, so I learn by mistakes
But don't we all though? I you know, maybe
well,
some to a degree more than others, but I sure have made a ton of mistakes.
Right. Peter, if you can figure out how to stop sharing, I'm not able to do that very easily from just here. Maybe I can. Here we go. Okay, good. So I'm gonna just show you. Let me bring me up. Can I do that? So I'm on a brand new phone here, so it's there we go. Now this may not be the best way, but this will work. I'm going to pull it up as.
Hey, Dunstan, this is Mike Millo.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I've got the chart up. If you unshare your screen, I can pop mine up with it.
Thank you.
How's that working just there for people? Can you see it clearly?
Yeah, it's great.
Okay. So let's just go through these motors again, right? So this one down here is the root. This one up here is the emotional center. If you have the emotional defined, then you must be an emotional projector or emotional authority. It's kind of the trump card of authority. Now this one here, that's the sacral, which is for generators, right? That's the red one. The other red one here is the will, the ego, or the heart. So those 4 down at the bottom right, they are what we call the motors. There's a consistent and reliable supply of energy when they're defined. Now, when they're open like this, we can catch we can amplify the energy from around us in the environment. And that's the whole trip of being a projector, is that we do amplify it. But if it's horrid energy, like, you know, like when you're in that other job in the kitchen, everyone's yelling at you or yelling generally, that's going to be absolutely disgusting, because your open sacral will pick up all that energy and amplify it.
But here's the thing. I mean, I have to ask you this question because I don't realize that my aura is. I have to remind myself that my aura is really big, powerful. I don't, you know, whatever word you want to use. I think it annoyed the crap out of people.
Well, this is the whole thing about waiting for the invitation, right? So it's good for us because then we're getting recognition when we do stuff, but it's also good for other people because no one wants to be penetrated by our laser focus when they don't want to be penetrated by our laser-like focus, right? That's the whole thing with being a projector. So yeah, it's good for everyone if we wait, and it also means that we don't have to mess around with the wrong people. We're only going to be working with the people that are correct. And one of the things I love the most about being a projector is we don't even have to worry about who is correct for us. They're going to come and invite us.
Yeah, and that's the whole. And if I can speak to something, because I've seen a lot of posts that are like, I know there's some posts about astrology and a post about this and posts about that, and what HD isn't for them. The thing that this has given me as far as waiting, like you said, I realized that I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything. I've been trying my whole life listening to Tony Robbins, get out there and initiate, blah, blah, blah. You know, you need to market yourself more. You need to get out there. None of those things worked. And the beauty of this, first of all, it's not personal. There's nothing to believe in, which I really liked. That was a big attraction for me. I don't have to believe this, but I can see from my experience that this works, this doesn't work. Trying to initiate never worked. How many times I tried to look for jobs, they didn't hire me. I'm overqualified. Nothing like that worked.
Did you hear Simran's interview when we did with her? She was.
I'm gonna listen to it. I haven't.
She had exactly the same experience. She was like, she said that the ratio of interviews she got for how much she put, how many, how much she got hired for how many applications she did was ridiculously low. So exactly.
I mean, I know that people find me, like this person I've known for this farm thing. I've been doing, she does farmers markets, and I've been doing chef at the market for the past 3 years. And I come once a summer and I do a little demo and I get paid and I go home. But she watches what I post, and she's, we've become friendly. And there's this other thing they're going to be doing, mobile farmers market, where we go to the hospitals and I'll be able to teach diabetics and people with autoimmune. This is all the work that I do. I do culinary medicine. And nobody's, and I was just about to take this off my website, and she said, don't do that. And so she called me and she said, you're the first person I thought of, just because somebody was watching. Food pictures. That's it. Somebody was watching. Like, does it get better than that?
This is really cool. So this is so can we break that story down a little? I think it's a really interesting and beautiful story of, so you, last we heard is you were in the kitchen, they were yelling at you about the eggs, and and you were like, something's got to change. So what was the sequence of events? Can you break it down?
The way this happened, it was, and she even said to me there was some kind of, I don't know, magic around how this happened. Okay, so it was 110 degrees last week, 2 weeks ago. Right, crazy weather. And I have an autoimmune disease, and that's why once I asked this, does anybody have thyroid things? Because I have thyroid. But it was really, really hot, and I did like 3 or 4 days in a row. And I had a class that happened to be the night before I was supposed to be scheduled on a Friday morning. Friday mornings, I did the hot bar. I did all the food for the hot bar. I had to, come in there in 2.5 hours, have 8 big dishes with backups and everything else like that. So it was really stressful and very hot. And the night before, the dishwasher called in sick at my class. And so it was me and another lady, and we were exhausted. And I came home and my body was aching and everything. And I called the next morning. The next day after that, I was going to do breakfast at the farm. Now we were still in the heat wave. And so I called in and I said, okay, do I want to go in there and kill myself for $40? Or do I want to stand there and make omelets for 3 hours and make $250? What's the easy answer? Stay home and rest and take care of yourself. So I called in sick. That night, I got an email from the kitchen manager saying, I really think, you're not reliable, because how do you be someplace for 15 years and not be reliable? I'm the most reliable person there. But I've cut down my hours quite a bit. So to make a long story short, she wrote me an email and said, don't come back to work. Don't come this week.
Because that's a question that comes up a lot is this thing about how projectors have to be invited to leave a relationship, right? So that was a nice invitation to leave.
Yeah, like this was so perfect.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Did you feel any rejection? Did you feel any kind of like twinge at all, or were you just like 100% like, I'm so happy?
I was so pissed.
Yeah.
I was so pissed. Now here's the thing. I said, they took me off the schedule. I said, well, that feels like an invitation to leave to me. But I didn't do anything. I didn't know I was going to leave. I've been trying to leave there. It was like worse than leaving my ex-husband. It took me forever to get out of that place. So,
Yeah, right.
you know, so I spoke to her last week and she said to me, I said, Amy, I said, you know, why did, you know, I felt like they were punishing me. And I was like, okay, I think, you know, and I sat with it all weekend and I spoke to a couple of my friends and they were like, I said, I know I'm going to have one of those crazy meetings again where they call me in and yell at me for some dumb shit like who, you know, who would, I'm 64. Are they going to yell at me about this stupid stuff? And I don't like confrontation. And somebody said to me, well, why don't you just take yourself off the hook and write a nice letter to the owner and leave? So I did. It's been a pleasure working for you. It's been an honor, blah, 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 blah. The food, the blah, 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 blah. But I didn't, I was pissed. So I didn't CC the store manager because she was crazy and the kitchen manager. And a week later, the kitchen manager said to me, I wasn't trying to punish you. I wasn't trying to punish you. I just thought you needed the time away.
Okay.
So maybe she had a totally different intention, but had I not misinterpreted that, I would still be there. How crazy is that? That's like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. I was like,
well, it all works out perfectly, right?
Yeah, and then the next day, you know, I get the call. All right, hurry up, give me the descriptions of the classes that you're going to do. We're going to get you on the calendar.
So meanwhile, you've been so meanwhile, it's almost like this other job. Is it true that it's something that isn't like a? Because a lot of jobs where there's a job description, right?
It's not a job. I'm a contractor.
Yeah.
So they contract me to do a 2-hour class, which could be hands-on or it could be a demo.
And that was a photo of the farm you sent, right? That was that nice photo with the...
Yes, it's beautiful. There's a little red barn there, and they have a beautiful new kitchen in there, like a demo kitchen. But, you know, I want people to get their hands, like last night's class, people were they made a cold noodle salad, and they got their hands in there. Like, that's what I want to see. You know, I want them to feel their food. So, this is similar to what I do now in the other place. I create classes. She says, what do you have for the fall? Okay, let's do vegan brunch. Let's do this. And I come up with all these ideas. Like I'm doing a vegan, what am I doing? A vegan Moroccan. It's called Rock the Casbah. So we're going to do, you know, next week we're doing that. So, I mean, I get to create whatever I want. And then I also, in this new place, I get to teach the energetics of food. Like I'm going to do a special thing on ancestors and having everybody bring an artifact from their kitchen, and it's very, very powerful. And people realize you have to eat three times a day, you know, so it's such a powerful thing.
So you get to bring that thing, which is your thing, right?
Yeah, I get to finally teach my thing.
Yeah, beautiful.
I teach it in a way in the other classes, but they don't know what they're getting. You follow me?
This is so the recognition thing, isn't it? Because it's like, it's in you. You want to do it, but you're not recognized. So it's kind of like, it's more and better and valuable. So it's like, you know, it's like you're giving them way more, but because they don't realize it or appreciate it, or, you know, it's not what they think they want. It's like, not only do they not appreciate it, but often you know, there can be resistance, right? It's like, well, why are you doing this? This isn't what we do here.
Well, I used to try to share my ideas without being invited.
Right.
That was the number one mistake.
Right.
And that's what this is. I mean, honestly, human design has been the best thing that's ever happened to me, because it's been the culmination of everything that I've learned before. I'm trying not to sneeze. I might sneeze. Sorry if that was loud.
That's all good.
Grab a tissue.
Really?
You know, all the things that never worked. And so, like I said, I spent a lot of time just being quiet. And if I want to give my 2 cents, I usually pay for it if I'm not invited.
Hey, Laurel and Dunstan, this is Mike again. Can I pull on a little thread on your story?
Sure.
You, Dunstan, we're good?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
All right. You started out a little earlier talking about you're not sure of your aura or how big it is or how powerful it is or not.
I didn't realize how powerful it is, but it is.
Right. So the thread would be if you retell your story to yourself about this misunderstanding and taking a day off for self-care, and then that turns into this whole new situation from the context of the auric interaction, and I hate that new agey phrase, but I don't have a better one.
Me too.
Between you and the kitchen manager and the owner and the other people in the old situation, there's probably some truth or some, understanding there about how your powerful projector aura has been showing up in that kitchen for however long you've been working with those specific people.
Exactly.
Underpins both their reactions or actions and the misunderstanding. So,
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it was brilliant, the whole thing, the way it turned out. The way it unfolded, and who knows how it's going to unfold,
And you're working with people's awareness. So the person, the kitchen manager that did whatever she did, she may have been just responding to your aura, and she may not consciously have known what was going on, but it worked perfectly. So, it's no need for too much mind. Here you are now, you're doing more of what you love and being recognized, which is great.
Right. I'm going to pay my rent today and maybe part of my car payment, but there's another 30 days before I get paid. I don't know what I'm going to eat. I don't know. I have no idea. And I kind of like that idea because I've always lived in the fear of needing to know, which
right.
is a very shamanic principle. Is one of the 4 addictions is the need to know.
Yep. It's also one of the melancholy indicators on I think the 43 is about that. So Peter was asking about your incarnation cross. And so you have the 2444. I think it's the cross of 4 ways, isn't it?
Yes. I'm not quite sure what a lot of this means, Dunstan. I really don't know.
Yeah. So the incarnation cross is, it's based upon the sun and the earth at the time you're born, and then that period of time, the design time, 88 days before you were born, right? So I have a favorite website for this, which is Love Your Human Design. Now, a lot of people say this isn't pure human design. You should look in the book if you want the definitive answer. However, I just find it's a nice go-to thing. And, whenever I read something, I'm not taking it in and seeing how it works. So I'll show you what I do with incarnation crosses. So Peter may have looked it up already there, but I'll show it because this process of doing this, other people may want to look up their own. So if you Google incarnation cross, you get this Love Your Human Design website. Now, the first gate that you have is the 24. So that's your top right gate, is your conscious sun. Are you with me so far?
Yeah.
So then what we're going to do is we're going to zoom down here. We're going to scroll down till we get to the 24, and this is done by number order. So there's the 20, there's the 24. Now, within the 24, there's the right angle cross. Then there's and this always goes like this: there's a right angle, a juxtaposition, and the left angle cross. Now, the right angle cross is about 2/3 of people. The left angle cross is about 1/3 of people. And the juxtaposition cross is a tiny fraction of people who are 4 1s. Okay? Right. Now, because you're a 2/4, you're a right angle cross. So your profile is 2/4. So then you can start to look at the gates that are involved. Okay, so gate 24, rationalizing. Gate 44, alertness. I think that's the one. So the 24 is the one on your ajna. The 44 is, I believe that's on the spleen, but I'm going to double check that. Then we've got the 19, which is wanting, and then the 33, which is privacy. So what I'll do straight away, then I'll go back to here, and I'll be like, right, where are they all? Okay, look, there's your 24 at the top of the ajna. Cool. Okay, where's the 44? That's right, the 44 is that one on the spleen that's part of the sales channel. Okay, so that's to do with one of the fears. Then we're going to go across and we're going to look at, let's pop this up a bit bigger. And then we're looking at the 19 and the 33. Now they're going to be in red. Okay, so there's the 19 down on the sacral down there. So we can check that out. There's the 19. Do you see it?
Uh-huh. Got it.
And then the 33 is up there on the throat.
Gotcha.
Okay, so you can start to learn about those different
Isn't
gates.
the 33 a hanging gate?
All of them for you are hanging gates.
Interesting.
In fact, on your chart, all of your gates are hanging gates, apart from your 1762. Because if it's not a hanging gate, it's when it matches up with the opposite gate and it forms a channel. So this one here, the 1762,
Yep.
it's forming a channel, whereas all of the others are hanging gates. So they're waiting to form bonds. Now, what's really interesting with you being a 2-4 profile, so here you're a 2 and here you're a 4. So the 2-4 profile means that you're the hermit opportunist, right? So you probably want to just hang out on your own and do not much and just make your art and not care, like, even if anyone's watching.
I love to. I'm a writer. Also, I write children's books and
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But then on the unconscious side, you have a talent for networking and you know, and look at all these gates that you've got, all these hanging gates can experience those electromagnetic connections with other people. Like, you know, if you hang out with someone with the 36 or the 22, that's going to make that channel take shape just there. That
Right.
Manifested channel.
I know.
Yeah?
I've got an markets internal.
So that's a whole other thing. So then that's the markets as your environment, right? So, but just on these hanging gates, it's like if someone is a reflector, they have all those hanging gates. Every gate is a hanging gate. So you have one channel. But all those hanging gates are there. It's like they're almost like half bridges, or like a hand waiting out to connect with other hands that other people have to make that connection. And so that's a really powerful thing. Now, I just wanted to point out just that thing with the red, all the hanging gates that you have on your motors. So you've got the 21 up there, that's red. You've got the 30 down there, that's red. So that's in the tribal circuit. This one here is also in the tribal circuit, the 19. The 30 is in the collective circuit. 52 is also collective, so is the 29, and so is the 58. So you have a lot of collective gates and 2 tribal gates just down there waiting unconsciously. So you may not even be aware of it with your mind, but you see these things happening. So this makes sense with these connections that you've had formed, this invitation that you had.
Individual channels or no?
Well, they're ready to make channels. They're just gates. They're just waiting. It's like
do I have any individual gates?
Individual gates. So you have the 1 and the 2 are both on the individual circuit. And they're the most yin and the most yang of the whole I Ching. So you have those on the G center. You also have the 43 up here is an individual.
Right.
And the 24 is also an individual. All of the individual ones go down the middle. And I believe the 12 is as well, just over here.
So
I
mean,
they go down the middle. Yeah, the individual gates always go down the middle. And also this K-shaped thing here, that's all individual circuitry.
Which one?
The one that's shaped like a K, from the 20 down to the 57. And then the 10.
Even if it's not filled in?
And the 34. Well, if it's not filled in, it means you don't have it defined, but you still have it, right? We all have everything. But if you don't have it defined, it's, you know, it's a very different experience. It's like you amplify the other person. You can think of it as being yin versus the yang is the defined, consistent gate, channel, center.
Interesting. I mean, in my earlier life, I really wanted to, I was such an introvert. I was very, very shy. So I forced myself to be out there. I mean, I post things all the time. I mean, I post food pictures. I love food photography. But I really wanted to be a belonger. You know,
Yeah.
I don't want to belong anymore.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to belong. You know what I mean? Like I felt like I needed to fit into a tribe, and I really don't like the tribe. I don't, you know.
I think it was Richard Beaumont did an interview, did a video about the second line, the hermit. And what he said was like, you know, it's the 6 floors of the house. And he was talking about the being on that like ground floor. You're not in the basement, the first line, you're on the ground floor, and it's the hermit, and you're there maybe painting or writing or doing some kind of art, and you're just in there totally engrossed in doing your thing. And you have no awareness of, is it good, or will people pay lots of money? That's not your trip. It's you're there doing the art. You're there focused on doing the thing that you love doing, which is your art. And then it gets dark, and then you turn the lights on, and the curtains are open, and all of a sudden people look in, and you're in there naked doing your thing, and it's like, oh my goodness, there's this kind of like people out there watching you, but that's not your preoccupation. You're just doing your thing.
Yeah.
And you don't need that. But then you've also got the 4th line in the unconscious, which is all about the opportunities that come through networking. So it's a very interesting profile. And Cohen actually said, when I first started doing this, he said, oh, you'll probably get a lot of 2/4s.
Interesting. Even the teaching job that I've been teaching for the last 3 years, I looked at her website, I don't know, 5 years ago, and I said, wow, these people are really talented. I'll probably never be part of that,
Okay.
And then 3 years later, 3 years ago, I got a phone call out of the blue. I want you to come and teach for me. Can you see? We got frozen for a minute.
Well, I'm just looking at the chat, so it's all good.
Oh. Yeah. So that just kind of blows me away. So I know that there's like big gaps in between sometimes when these invitations come.
Yes.
And I do feel that this new one, even though I've got like 3 this month, is like an opening. I can throw them as many as I want, and they'll put me on there, and I can teach whatever I want. When I can look on the farm website and see what vegetables are going to come up this week. What can we play with?
Yeah. What are you working with here?
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah. So Peter has looked up your incarnation cross here, and he says your cross is driven by the lead energy, which is looking for privacy. This is a retreating energy, which is actually looking for freedom that is only found in having your own space.
Absolutely.
And he also said that your chart is very close to his, so he feels like you're talking about him.
Oh wow.
So that's powerful.
That's comforting. What's wonderful about being on the projector page is sometimes I feel like it's the only safe place to say what is going on in my life.
Right. That's beautiful.
If that makes any sense.
Makes a lot of sense to me.
I mean, like, I still got like another 5 years to go, and I'm sure I got lots of conditioning. But I do think coming to this as an older person instead of a detriment has been such a big help, because what happened to me finding, really looking into diving more into my strategy and authority, which is really mostly the only thing I really concentrate on. I love to learn all the other stuff, but I keep hearing how important it is. And I feel like that's the thing that really is driving this, is that everything else didn't work. And all my illusions about, well, if I just get out there and something didn't work, somebody from the New Thought thing would be saying, well, you didn't have enough faith or this. And so there was all this spiritual shaming. And I was like, this is bullshit. I'm like, no, I don't agree. And there was so many things that I couldn't say out loud, because the people that are so hooked into it, especially in a lot of spiritual communities, only see it this way.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't think for themselves. So
Yeah.
I think that's what spending time alone has helped me. You get a little judgmental. I mean, I'm a little judgmental. I like this, I don't like that. Or, I have to be careful what I say, but this really came to me by default, because I was really sick of everything else. And I was like, no, I don't feel like following that crowd.
Yeah. Perfect. So perfect.
you know.
I
So
mean, it's crazy, isn't it? That you know, like, but you can see how those people with the law of attraction that think everyone's the same, you know, the homogenized human being, it makes you know, from where they're looking, you just have to try visualizing harder.
well, I mean, that's all the mind. I mean, I did science of mind for, you know, and nothing against them. They're nice people. I did science of mind and became an actual licensed practitioner, but I disagreed with some things, and I realized that I wasn't manifesting things the way I should have, and that's when I had to walk, and I said, this is not right for me, you know. And so finding out I was a projector was like, cool. Now what do I do with it?
Yeah, welcome to the
But
club.
a lot of the early John Martin videos, they really helped me, because I just felt like it was just, your strategy is exactly what it says it is. It's a strategy. This is how you operate. You know, be quiet. Don't give advice unless you're asked. Whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and also it's you know, and then the next, you know, then now you're sharing some of your story about your life, and that'll help someone else. You know, there'll be someone else who's watching it. You know, already we know that's happening here. Peter said, you know, that thing of like, wow, this is the same experience that I'm having, and you know, it's like we have some same experiences and some different experiences. So that's really cool. Angela's got a question here. She asked, could you share a bit about your emotions? Have you ever been told you're a cold person? Angela, I'm just wondering if you give a bit of context to that. Is that something that's happened to you, Angela? So she says she's also a mental projector. I'm wondering if that's something that she's that someone said to her. But how does that land with you, Laurel? Do you feel a resonance with that?
have I ever been called a cold person?
So what she's I'm not totally clear what she's getting at, but what she's going into detail. Let's see.
Oh, okay.
So what she
Well,
said is that she has trouble identifying her own emotions versus what's conditioned. So
okay. Wow, that's an interesting question. Okay, for me, Angela, I mean, because I've had so many different, the practice that has helped me most with dealing with my emotions would be like more shamanic practice. I mean, I used to, I still flip out. Okay, I'm very emotional, very emotional. But I know that when I'm very emotional, I have to sit with it, and I can't make my decisions in the moment from my emotions. I also have learned that if I have a feeling about something, that something isn't right, is to listen to it. Like, okay, here's an example. I was on a dating site. I know that's kind of a no-no, but I got bored and I thought, okay, I wanted to hear what a guy sounded like again. Oops, my mother calling. I'm going to lower this.
hang on. Who says it's a no-no to be on a dating?
Well, I mean, dating sites are not really for projectors. It really isn't. And
Really?
and something felt wrong for me.
Okay.
I was talking to this fellow, and it's always a little nagging, tiny feeling that you don't really pay attention to, and you sort of justify that. Well, maybe I should give this person. I looked this guy up. I found out he was it went to prison for being a child molester, and I was like, oh my God, block, 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 block. You know, I'm very emotional. And what I've learned to do is be in my emotion and allowing myself to feel what I'm feeling. And so when you allow yourself to do that, the energy passes through much quicker, rather than saying, cancel that thought or don't feel this. I mean, I think that's just total bullshit. You know, what is that, the toxic positivity? Don't think that. Don't feel that. You shouldn't feel
toxic positivity. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing now. You know, I don't know if that answers your question, Angela, but
she says it's helpful.
Yeah, I mean, just be where you are. I mean, if you're feeling something, feel it. There's no, I don't think there's any law in human design that says don't feel, or that life isn't, some bullshit in life isn't going to come your way, because it's life. You know, people get sick, people die, people get married, you know, all kinds of...
Did you read that one about being having your feet nailed on the surfboard?
yeah.
Like one of the mentors talks about being strapped into a single-seater roller coaster ride, and it's like you're on. So yeah,
Well,
anyone that's talking about not feeling stuff doesn't feel right to me. But so and what I loved about what you were describing, I could imagine this kind of tube, and it's like the emotions, everything you're feeling can pass through it, but it's about not locking on to one particular emotion and trying to make it permanent. It's just allowing the feelings to come and go, and the subtleties to move, right?
Yeah, and it's not forever.
This too shall pass. This too shall pass.
It'll pass.
Whether it's great or whether it's terrible.
Yeah. I mean,
Nothing
it doesn't last. I mean, I can't talk now, but there's a situation where I'm harboring a friend of mine who had to leave a very dangerous situation. I've got 3 kids in my other room, and she went to work, and I have a little 1-bedroom apartment, so that's going to pass for them too.
Sure.
So that happened last night. I didn't even know if I was going to make the call today, but I'm really glad that we did. But so I mean, I had to get the family out of a very, very dangerous situation. But
something, So I mean, something else that may be really useful for Angela is there's a really good book called about the difference between feeling versus emotion. So the difference in the definition, it's not a human design book, but it's very powerful. And the definition is, if it's something that's arising in response to the current situation, that's a feeling. So, if someone comes up to me and pokes their finger in my belly and I feel uncomfortable, that's aligned with what's happening in my current now reality.
Right,
now,
like
if someone comes along and pokes me in the belly, and then that triggers up some childhood trauma response from some uncle who always did, who the other stuff happened maybe, then that is emotion, because that's all stored up stuff. So that's not just in the now. That's like, and that's where it requires objectivity to be able to, because Angela was talking about the conditioning, is like, well, am I feeling that because that's what I should be feeling? Or, like, if this happens in context of relating with someone of the opposite sex, I should feel outraged. But actually, I don't feel anything. I feel okay. But then society tells me I should be feeling, angry or whatever. So this is the work, isn't it? It's to look at what's true.
Absolutely. I mean, and there's lots of different teachers. I mean, some people like Byron Katie. I mean, I've delved into. I decided I didn't want to follow anybody.
I love Byron Katie. I've used the work.
I love her. I mean, I take little bits from here and there that I learn or something that resonates. But I used to be part of a group, and I'm still in touch with them, that did a healing heart. Really wonderful, very powerful retreat. And everything that this woman said, everybody hung on all the time. And it was like, okay, so there was a retreat. And actually, she introduced me to human design. But I was at a retreat and I couldn't afford to stay. And they're like, you told her you couldn't stay? And I'm like, she sits on the toilet too, So, you dared say something to her? And I'm like, yeah, she's not paying for it. I am. I can't do it. So, I don't want to give anybody else that much power. When I feel emotion, how do I balance? I would think maybe to just sit with it and see where it takes you. I mean, what would you say, Johnson?
Well, I was just checking the comments, and Peter said he met his wife on a dating site. So there you go.
Okay, well, whatever. I'm 64. I mean, I'm going to have to get an awfully good invitation. I know that, huh?
Yeah, so Peter's 64 as well. There you go. Straight back at you. You guys have a bit in common by the sound of it.
Right. So, what do you do with your emotion? You sit with it. I have to soundboard. I know if I'm feeling really emotional or in my feelings about
Constantine's actually got his chart up there. He has all the motors defined and also the spleen. So he has like round the bottom, but nothing else defined. So he's an emotional authority projector. So
how would that work for him?
Well, it means he has lots of motors. He's an energy projector. So he, you know, for example, with exercise, as I'm an energy projector too, I have 2 motors. 3 motors is the maximum you can have as a projector. So what they say with exercise for an energy projector is that we can exercise quite hard, but the motivation is to blow off steam. It's not that we have to do it every day. When we've got excess energy, it's good for us to burn it off by doing something physical as energy projectors. So, you know, Constantine might find with the emotions that doing some kind of movement and making some kind of sound can allow the energy to move easier. You know, there's many
so interesting
things that may be useful, but you know, without knowing the specifics, I don't know too much more to say. But yeah, it's like, you know, it's kind of like the surfboard is kind of coming into some gnarly water and the barrel's closing out, and you're getting like starting to get the spray hitting you, but you're still nailed onto the surfboard. So
thank you, Angela. Thank you, Angela. I kind of wish that James Toon was on this and had a craving for chocolate cake at 5 a.m. or something like that. I have to say that when you guys did your first talk and I listened into that, it was such a huge relief to see somebody that was so relaxed in this, like, hey, you know, like, just chill. Like I know we all take it so seriously, right?
some people do.
I mean, I take it seriously, but like, what choice do I have? I don't know. Right?
Well, the thing that I did love about what James said on that call was about coming back to the body. And, you know, my understanding of mental projector is that it's you have all of those open centers, which can be such a sweet experience in the body, to be so receptive. But of course, you know, we get conditioned to think that being sensitive is a weakness, and that being soft is you know, that we should be tough. And so, you know, I resonated with what I was reading about mental projectors actually having this amazing capacity just to feel everything.
Some people call that an empath. You know, like,
yeah, open emotional center is an empath.
With my friend's situation. Damn, hold on a second. With my friend's situation, I can't tell you how in the body terrified and anxious and that I felt, and it wasn't even mine. And so, I mean, you know, obviously, if you're empathic or have that thing, I mean, obviously, you have to take care of yourself and make sure, you know, that not everything is yours, and you don't have to take everything as yours. And I think what's helping me with the strategy and authority is really helping me learn boundaries and how to walk away from something that is really not correct for me, because it's just I mean, if I look at it in terms of, okay, this is just mechanics, I can walk away from this. It's no harm done.
It makes it less personal, doesn't it?
It's not for me. How easy is that?
Yeah.
It's becoming easier, but it's really hard to do as a practice when your whole life you've been conditioned to, you know, stay in a situation because it's your mother, your father, and your husband, wife, whatever, or work, and stay in something that's not correct for you because of the money or the fear or the whatever. Like when I left, I mean, you know.
Yeah, well, Angela said she was going to listen in later, so I have something, Angela, if you're listening to this, that this may be useful. It's a little experiment I've been doing, right? So I have an undefined emotional center. So, Laurel, are you familiar with the not self question for the undefined emotional center?
Not quite.
It's a very specific question.
What is the question?
It's where am I avoiding conflict and truth, or where am I avoiding conflict and truth?
Oh, I'm aware of that from all the other things I've done in my life, but maybe not necessarily from human design.
So what you were describing about the conditioning because we've been conditioned to do things a certain way and not upset the apple cart and be a nice girl or a nice boy and not speak out of turn. And, you know, it wasn't that long ago when children were supposed to be seen and not heard, wasn't it? All that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And here was another piece to this is, let's say you break up with somebody and you think that I'm going to remain friends with this person when actually it's really not correct for you to. This is another thing that really drove home to me this past year, is that it is not the spiritual thing, or we think we're going to do it because it's the spiritual thing to do, or we're taking the higher road. All that is just another total illusion. You know, the higher road is to do what's correct for you in all things.
There we go. There we go. The deepest truth is what's really true. And this is great where human design gives us this tool to empower us to say, well, follow your inner authority.
Right.
And that's just like, you know, you can't argue with the inner authority because it just is.
So doesn't this I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, you know, people think, well, what am I going to say? And we get really nervous about it. But when you just say, look, it's not correct for me to do that. It just isn't right for me. It's not true for me. What can someone say? Well, it's not true for me. I want you to do it anyway. Or, you know, you should override your inner guidance system. Well, thanks, but no thanks.
I mean, so what I did when I wrote my letter 2 Sundays ago, it was brilliant. Like, I figured, okay, before I get pulled into one of these crazy meetings again, I'm going to write a nice letter and say, basically, that this isn't correct for me anymore.
Right. And how did that go? That was
I'm so sad to see you go. And I know this is where you belong right now in teaching, and maybe production is, you know, I was past my sell-by date.
Uh-huh.
You know, I learned that phrase when I lived in England.
Yeah. We have some funny expressions.
You know, so I mean, I don't know what the future holds for me in this, and I don't think there's any magic bullet, and I think we all want a magic bullet. We all want the magic thing to happen.
Some people do. I mean, where I was going with that thing earlier is that actually any places in, you know, this talk about the emotions, right? Any places inside ourselves that we're afraid to go to because we don't want to upset the apple cart, or we don't want to be seen as rude, or whatever, those are the places where we manipulate ourselves, and other people can manipulate us.
Absolutely.
So a really powerful practice is to actually, you know, do an audit of what am I avoiding in my life? And this isn't something that ever gets finished for me anyway. It's like, right, what am I avoiding? Like, and I had a relating scenario with a beautiful manifesting generator, and now every few weeks I ring her up and I'm just really honest with her. And it's not comfortable. It's not, you know, there's so much love between us still, but I'm just really fucking honest.
You have to be.
And I say things that I was afraid to say. I didn't even know them because I was too afraid to even let myself think them.
Well, one of the main themes. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I'll just be really honest, and it's amazing how much energy that unlocks. Right? For me, that's my experience. Then for the rest of that week, I'm like, wow. And I had the intention a few weeks back to disturb myself, you know, so deliberately to go to those uncomfortable places emotionally. And that's been one of the most powerful weeks of my life ever, to do that.
I mean, it's empowering for you because you're really living for yourself. I mean, not in a selfish way, that the classic term of selfish. One of the questions that I asked myself the past couple of weeks is, because I've done the Carl Jung thing and, you know, all of that. I mean, I've had so much stuff that I've done before in my life, is where am I prostituting myself? Prostituting myself in this situation because of the money, or because of the fear, or because of whatever. And,
sure.
You know, just
what was your goal?
You know, so the decision that I made, that I seem to wanted to be moving towards, is understanding my value, what I'm worth in the dollar sign. You know, what I'm worth. I have tons of information that I can help people with, tons that a couple of people now recognize that they're tapping into all of that, and but now I don't want to work hard hours and long hours. It's still work. It still takes a degree of energy. I mean, even to create stuff takes energy. I enjoy it, but it takes energy to go and show up, just to get in the car and go and show up. But I decided that I don't want to work that many hours a week. I should be making, at this point, I want to be making enough money to take care of myself. And I'm not talking, I haven't gone on vacation. The last time I went to England was 7 years ago. But I want to be able to take care of myself doing only what I love. And what I find interesting is when I'm with the group, and now I've had a little issue with the owner of the culinary school, because she bring the food 40 minutes late, or, you know, she gets mad at things that are really her responsibility. So when I'm actually in the group and doing that thing is when I feel the best. It's all the other people shit around it, like other people's stuff, that drive that I don't like. I really don't like. It's very uncomfortable. But I'm actually in the group and I'm actually doing the thing is the most perfect time ever for me, besides being alone. Does that make sense?
I mean, it's going to be really cool seeing how it unfolds. Like I just had a quick look back through some of your posts, and you know, in the last few months, it's really been cool to see how you've been getting into it deeper and deeper. So it's going to be really cool to see how that unfolds going forward for you.
Yeah, who knows? You know.
Do you have any specific questions, or does anyone have any specific questions based on your chart, or anything people would like to know more about? Or now we could have a couple of questions, then we can wrap up.
I know I've got one.
Tell me.
Okay, so I know the motivation is desire, so that's to be able to go out and teach and things like that, right? That's about sharing, correct?
So your motivation is desire, and what's your transference? This is from the advanced human design chart, isn't it?
I don't know what the transference is. Oh, it's innocence. Innocence. So yep. Then, I mean, I've got the color or whatever it is. It says power. I'm not quite understanding what that means. Like, is that the? I don't understand what that means. How everybody, what's it called? It's called definition. Is that definition?
So, what's your question?
What does it mean?
Which part?
You know, when it says everybody's got a different one, and one says mine is power. It's like it's desire is the motivation, and the definition I think is power.
I don't see where you're looking on the chart.
It was probably on a chart that Cohen posted.
Okay. So we could talk about motivation. So your motivation is desire, and your transference is innocence. So there's a place in that to actually go for what you love, go for your heart's desire. Mm-hmm. Whereas James is the opposite. His motivation is innocence, and then his transference is desire. So if he's reaching out for things that he wants, that's him in transference. So he was talking about just being, you know, that just like, well, just see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Let's just see what happens.
Right.
So
it's so interesting, isn't it?
Right. So you could imagine how that might go if there were two people exploring a connection between them, you know, in terms of relating.
It makes me wonder how anybody can get together.
Right. Well, it works really well, right? If one person's being innocent and the other person's expressing their desire, that could work really well.
Maybe. I don't know enough. I mean, honestly, I really don't. I look at things and I read things, and every once in a while, Cohen will come up with a one-liner that'll be like, oh, okay, which is great. You know, I love that. And so, I mean, I learn more from watching what everybody else says than even what I say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just want to be straight with you as well. Like, I mean, I'm, you know, there's so much in this human design. I'm just really scratching the surface. So I'm not convinced. I'm not certain on what it means when it says view power. I don't know that.
View, yeah. I don't know what that means. Does anybody know what that means?
But that's a good question to take into the group if you want to dig into that. You know, we're talking, you know, this is deep, this is a deep rabbit hole. Yeah. So it's
yeah, I like it. You know,
well,
it's a little
you
weird
have the desire for the knowledge, Laurel.
huh?
You have the desire for the knowledge.
Yeah, it's great.
And desire is your motivation. And just for anyone watching this, a really good point that Cohen made that's very powerful is how, especially for us as projectors while we're waiting for invitation, knowing the motivation can be powerful. So if you're waiting for invitation, you could be working with need or desire or fear or innocence. And you know, it can really be helpful to know your motivation. If you know a precise time of birth, you can calculate that. So
Pretty interesting stuff. And
you've also got quad left on the variable arrows. So
yes, I think am I quad left? Am I quad left?
Yeah, they all point to the left. So it's PLL, DLL.
So that means very focused mind, right?
It's all focused. It's all like left brain, like all focused. Yeah. Again, that's something I'm just starting to learn about.
So funny because I had somebody in my class last night that was a techie.
Yes.
And the techies have to measure everything.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
When they're cooking.
They're so funny. Yeah. Like this is a quarter of a teaspoon, but it feels like it needs a little bit more. What do I do?
Well, you can never succeed because the ingredients vary, don't they?
Well, I mean, when you're cooking, it's just cooking. Baking is science, but
right.
It's chemistry. But cooking is just put some more in. You know. You know, people look at me crazy. They, you know, usually, I mean, I run a very different show. I'm like, I want you guys to break rules. I want you to experiment.
Right.
You know, but mostly introduce yourself because by the end of the night, you'll be good friends. So.
I feel my energy flagging, and so
okay.
I'm
okay. I think we're about to ready. Okay.
Yeah, it's been really great to.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
This is and hang. So yeah.
You're such a cool guy. Thank you, everybody.
Well, Laurel, just to wrap it up, if you had one word of advice for yourself as you first experienced human design, what would you say to yourself? I think it was 2 years ago when you first found human design, knowing what you know now.
What would I say to myself?
What would be your advice to your pre-human design self?
Pay attention. Like the first words that came to my mind were pay attention.
Pay attention.
But just the thing that I hear things, when I hear a piece of advice, I hear it over and over and over again. You know, stay in your own aura, spend as much time in your own aura. The things that John Martin said, I hear in my head still throughout. If somebody says something that's profound, stay in your own aura, spend time alone, sleep alone. Those things.
Nice. Yeah. Super nice. That's really awesome. Thank you so much, Laurel. I will get the recording up shortly. And if you feel to do a transcript where you go through and when you listen to it, you can make some time notes. That helps people have less time to be able to jump to the relevant section. So if you or anyone else wants to do that, then that's a bit of fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you very, very much for this. This is
sending a whole load of love. And thanks everyone for listening. Okay. And we'll see you next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.